My wife, 45F, was married to Bob, 46 meters, for almost a decade. They got divorced 12 years ago. There is a story behind it. Bob and my wife were college sweethearts. They got married very young and has been happy. However, tragedy struck and Bob got into an accident which led him to be paralyzed from waist down. My wife was 29 and Bob was 30 back then. My wife took care of him for 3 years. But at then end she just gave up. She told Bob that she could not do this anymore. She knows she sounds selfish but she always wanted kids, but Bob cannot have children after the accident. She wanted to get a divorce but promised him that she will always be there for him. She just wants to be selfish for once. Bob, although, he was upset but he understood. They split amicably. My wife stood by her promise and still visited Bob. She was still a part-time caretaker for him before she met me. I, 40 meters, meet her 2 years after her divorce. While we were dating, she made her situation with Bob clear that she will continue to see him. I know a lot of guys would be skeptical about this. But I just loved her the moment I saw her. Her kindness and compassion towards others is what drew me towards her. After we became official she only went to see Bob once a week. Sometimes even twice. I did not mind then. In fact I liked her ex very much. He didn't treat me like I was the other man. He was always welcoming towards me and even showed me his library. I always felt bad for what happened to him. He was a great man and life has just betrayed him. When we got married, I could still see the sadness in his eyes although there was mix of emotions from him. I always felt that Bob never stopped loving my wife and to some degree my wife still has feelings for him. I know she loves me a lot. She has always treated me like I'm her king and always showed her love to me. Seriously, I'm really lucky to have her in my life. Together we have 2 children, 7 meters, 5F. My kids are also close with Bob. Everything was fine until few months ago, we got the news that Bob has cancer. It was at the last stage and he might not even survive a full year, but there is still possibility. The news really shattered my wife. She had stopped eating properly and being her usual cheerful self. I understand it. But here is a part where I am a little uncomfortable with. She now visits him very often. Most of the time I will be there with her. And then few weeks after the discovery she told me she wants to shift in his house. She told me that Bob feels lonely and his siblings do not care about him since his accident. And it will be better if she would just stay with him. I objected. We had an argument and reached a compromise that we are both going to stay. So I've been staying at Bob's house for 2 weeks now. 4 days ago, we were all having dinner and after we were finished I decided to do the dishes. My wife and Bob were chatting. The conversation were like this. Bob, I really miss this. I miss talking to you like the good times. My wife, me too. Remember one time we talked so much that we were late for work the next day? It wasn't even important. Bob, what happened to us, Lily? I mean we were something. People would use us as an example. I miss you a lot. Never thought that when I was dying you wouldn't be my wife anymore. My wife, I know. At one point I thought that too. But life had other plans. I mean I love you but I love my family more. It was not the same after your accident. It is as if they forgot that I was in the kitchen and listening to their conversation. My wife was normal after that. We went to bed and kissed each other goodnight. Between this, she wanted to make love to me but I just rejected her. I don't know how to feel about all of this. I trust my wife. I know she is a strong woman with good morals. She will never cheat on me. I know she is just sympathetic towards Bob because their relationship was beyond just exes. They are best friends. I feel like an intruder between them. And I think no matter what my opinion is about all of this, I will always be the bad guy. Comments where Op has replied. Beneficial_syrup_869 You're not the bad guy in a form, know that. You need to talk to your wife about what you heard. Then you need to get to counseling with her and possibly Bob. Cause when Bob does pass you want to have everything settled, cause she may start saying shit like, I lost the most important man to me, and then you're going to be severely pushed over the edge. Oop. Therapy sounds good. I guess I knew deep down this will come. Replied to a deleted comment. Oop. I don't think you understand. You are just assuming. She divorced because she was full-time as caretaker and cannot do that longer. Their marriage failed for that reason. There was no intimacy, no romance. She had a version of what kind of family she wanted and she has been clear with that since the beginning. She was young back then and had her whole life ahead. Now we have children and our situation is very different from her first marriage. I know that if I get injured she will not leave me. She is also in a better financial position than she was 12 years ago and we can hire nurses if one of us becomes injured. And I don't mind her going once a week to see Bob. Bob is also my friend too. I also visit him sometimes along with my wife. She spends time with me a lot. She has no other family except for Bob. Farmer_Scrooge. This story makes me sad for all of you. It's understandable, she's been upfront about this with you. She loves him and feels guilty she couldn't stay with him and have the life she wanted. It's very sad. You would not have your wife if not for his accident. I wouldn't like this arrangement, it would be very uncomfortable. But you did sign up for this. How are your kids processing all of this? Oop. They are mostly sad. Bob is getting weaker every second. They don't know he will be dying. But they are happy to see Bob. Scarecrow 25. This is difficult for many reasons. Reading your post, or almost sounds like you want to be jealous, but I doubt that's really it. If it were jealousy, I feel that you would have had problems long ago. Have you considered that you're grieving for Bob, the man you called a friend? Is it easier to be upset or hurt at your wife than to face his demise? It doesn't sound like there is anything for you to worry about from this relationship itself. It's just difficult emotionally, and that's understandable. You really should see a therapist to help you work through your emotions so you can be there to support your wife and children when he passes. It won't be helpful if you're still suppressing both the hurt of knowing your wife loves someone else and the loss of a friend. Oop. I'm devastated that I am losing a dear friend of mine. I mean, Bob never ever tried to hurt me or made me feel like a third man or a man who came between him and my wife. In 2020, I went into a deep depression due to the stress of losing my job and COVID. Bob, even though he was disabled, helped me and motivated me to keep going. He is a really good guy. Maybe you are right, I'm still in a mix of emotions. Update 1, January 26, 2024. Alright. I took some of the advice that you guys gave me. Although I was disappointed to see so many emotional people calling me and my wife names without even trying to understand the situation. This will be a long one. Before I give an update, I want to make few things clear. My wife is awful because she abandoned her husband. No, I disagree with that. There is a between terminating a marriage and abandoning. She didn't abandon Bob. She was right by his side. She was just not his wife. I can understand why. She was 29 when this happened. At 29, people are still starting their lives. But her life and her husband's life ended there. You expect her to give up her life, her hopes and dreams? And what then? Resent Bob for the rest of her life? Caretaking can be exhausting. She was emotionally, physically and financially drained while she was taking care of Bob. Would you have still expected her to give up her life if this happened when she was 21? It's not like she didn't try. They went to therapy and did counseling, but there was no romance, no intimacy, they just grew apart because they both had different dreams. Despite all of that, she was still in his life. She still took care of him. She could have disappeared after her divorce, but she didn't. That's what you call abandonment? Also, the reason why I didn't give all the details was because this was not about her old marriage. But now I'm making it clear because people are assuming things. I know most of your things are black and white. But from a logical perspective, I don't think she is wrong. My wife and Bob are having an emotional affair. Also no. People who have affairs are secretive. My wife was never like that. She was always upfront and honest about her relationship with Bob. And how she would still want to care about him. I do not think there is any affair. Just because she said she loves him, so what? She says I love you to her kids, her friends and even my mother. That doesn't mean she is having an affair with all of them. She has kept a boundary between Bob and her. She doesn't love him romantically but like a friend or a family. She doesn't have her own family. She has been in NC with her abusive family since she was 18. Bob was the only family she has ever known. If my wife wanted kids, why didn't she just adopt or do IVF? Like I said in my previous post, she was financially drained. IVF costs a lot here and adoption with a disabled parent is hard. The agencies hesitate to give a child when one parent is not functional. Then again, they would still need money. My wife wanted children of her own. And if they went to either of the routes, she would have been the one taking care of the baby most of the time along with her husband. Bob almost went broke during all the caretaking. It wasn't until a few years ago he started a remote job that allowed him to stay at home and earn. My wife will leave me if the same thing happened to me. I doubt it. But even if she does, I would understand it. We talked about this before getting married. That if we have tried every possible option, then one of us can divorce. I do not want to be a burden on my own wife. And? We are both in our 40s. We have pretty much accomplished every goal in life. So if tragedy does strike, then we are prepared. Bob loves my wife. He could. But there's not much I can do about it. I mean, I cannot order him to stop loving. But he does have some feelings for her. Whether it's limerence or not, I do not know. Though Bob was in a long-term relationship for 5 years with a girl, I do not think his love for my wife is the same as romantic love. What about my kids? Our kids are here for a while and they live with their grandmother. I do not see why people are acting like we abandoned our kids. Our kids love Bob. They do not know Bob is my wife's ex-husband. They only know that Bob is my wife's friend. They are not mature enough to understand it. Update 2. I took your advice. I just wanted to do the talk when she wasn't stressed. I texted my wife to meet us in our house, not Bob's. I ordered her favorite food and set up the table. When she arrived, she was surprised to see the setup, and I just told her since she has been stressed lately I wanted to do something good for her. I called my mother. The kids are with her. Bob is staying at the hospital today, so he is fine too. And she can relax. She was happy and thanked me. We talked about our life and she vented about her job and everything that's been going on. Then I dropped the bomb about her conversation with Bob. I told her about the conversation she was having with Bob and how it made me feel. Well, I like Bob and I know she loves me too, but I cannot help but imagine her wanting to be with him. And it's really like a stab. Though I do appreciate her wanting to help Bob, I want to enforce boundaries. I cannot live forever in her ex's house. We have our own house. She needs to think about our kids too. I feel like day by day I'm losing her. This is just my concern and not insecurity. I expected her to flip out and become defensive, but she just cried a lot. She said that she didn't mean to hurt me. She knows she went too far with wanting to stay with Bob. She says she doesn't want Bob to feel alone. That's why she proposed it. And she feels sorry for not listening. She didn't mean to hurt me. She has been thinking about the living situation. I told her it's not enough. I wanted us to talk to a therapist. This whole thing is just a burden on me. She got scared and said, "Why? Nothing's wrong with us." I told her I want to do this. Just make sure we are on the same page and there are no hard feelings on either side. Then I asked her if she still wishes to be with Bob. Because if he didn't have the accident they would still be together. She told me she has wasted time thinking about what if. She knows we'd probably never meet, or she and Bob could have divorced for a different reason. The thing is, she doesn't want to think about it. What happened just happened. She loves me and doesn't want to be with Bob. Bob has a place in her heart as a friend and a family. When she said she loves Bob doesn't mean she is in love with him. She hasn't thought about him in a romantic way since their divorce. The only reason she stuck with Bob was because they promised to each other no matter what happens they will be with each other even as a friend. She proposed that we move back home and only stay 1 day a week in Bob's house. She might do occasional visits when it is needed. I agreed, but I still insisted on going to therapy. She agreed to it. We have yet to tell Bob about the news. But I'm sure he will understand. And before you ask, yes, Bob has a full-time nurse. He has family, but they hardly ever visit him. I'll probably not make an update again. And I'm done. No matter how much I try to explain it to you guys, you would only stick to seeing things either black or white. Apparently in the Reddit world, two exes remaining good friends is considered an emotional affair. They don't need context to understand things. I'm also very much drained emotionally. Bob is also my friend. Seeing him getting weak every day just makes me feel hopeless too. Comments where Op has replied. Beneficial_syrup_869. I am glad you had that conversation with her. I am rooting for you. And yes, therapy. I always feel like therapy is like an oil change. It is maintenance. If you don't do it, you're screwed, but if you keep it, you'll be running smoothly. I have a few therapists in my family, so maybe their influence. She may need individual therapy too. There is a lot to unpack for her. Oop. Yes. We talked about that. Sorry, I forgot to mention that in my post. I told her that she needs to face the ugly reality that Bob might not be in our lives. She needs to prepare for that. She needs therapy for herself to navigate those feelings. She agreed to that. OK_breakfast 9531. Communication. As much as people would like to vilify the two of you, you are both admirably navigating a sea of gray and doing the best you can. I'm disappointed by this sub's inability to do nuance. Marriage is nuanced. Marriage requires comfort with gray areas. Marriage requires constant give and take. Thank you for sharing with us. Oop. Yup. I think people are way too self-righteous to think about any other possible solution. Yes, morally she should have stayed with her ex and spent the rest of her life taking care of him, no matter how emotionally draining it is. But practically it makes no sense. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Wife changed after I lost my high-paying job, so I took a waiter job and caught her cheating with her ex. I, 31 male, recently divorced my ex-wife, 28 female, because of her lies and infidelity. My wife and I first met in a shopping mall. I had gone to the mall to get some items since I shopped only twice a month. As I was about to leave the mall that day, my wife came to me and asked if I could look at her car, which had refused to turn on. While helping her check her car, I realized that her problem was minor, and I helped her fix it. Originally, I had no intentions of becoming friends with her or anything because I only wanted to help her and leave, but in the process of helping her fix her car, we had a great conversation, and we ended up exchanging contacts. After that day, we didn't see each other again until a week later. I had forgotten entirely about her, and if she had not called me again, things would not have gotten so serious between us. Long story short, my wife and I started going out on our free days, and as we got to know ourselves better, love happened. We dated for only a year and married afterward. Before my wife and I settled down, she told me about her previous relationship, and I told her about mine. According to my wife, her rich ex-boyfriend maltreated and physically abused her. They dated for 4 years. But in terms of taking care of her, giving her money and gifts, he was pretty generous with that. From what I understood, my wife claimed she had to leave her abusive ex-boyfriend because she was tired of being cheated on and abused. I understood her because I had a friend in an abusive relationship, too, and I saw how hurt she was all the time. I even assured my wife that our marriage would be her safe haven and I would never raise my hands on her no matter how angry I would be, and I meant it. I had never hit a woman before and didn't plan on starting with her. Since my wife was already living with me from the 5th month of our relationship, being married was not so different, except for us wearing our wedding bands and the pictures we had decorated at home. For the first few months of our marriage, everything was so smooth. My wife showered me with so much love and made me feel like the only man in the world. Since the house I lived in was given to me by my late dad, we didn't need to pay rent. We only had to pay utility bills, groceries, and gas. Honestly, I was the one who took care of the bills. I earned enough money to take care of both of us, and I was comfortable doing that. I never asked her about her salary or what she did with her money. I felt it was my responsibility to take care of her and the bills since she was already used to that lifestyle. 1 year passed, and we were still living in harmony, except for a couple of issues with my work from the 10th month of our marriage. Something happened at the organization I worked at, and for a whole month, I wasn't paid. Not being paid affected a lot of things at home because I couldn't do the things I used to do before. Initially, when we realized at work that we wouldn't be paid for that month, I wasn't bothered because I believed my wife would take care of the bills at home until things returned to normal. But I was so wrong. That day, I went home to tell my wife I wasn't paid, thinking she would pacify me and take over things for a while, but she shocked me. She started being so dramatic and then made a fuse out of it. She asked me what we would do, and I told her to take care of the house until things were normal. Guess what, guys? My wife said she would only agree to help with the house if I agreed to pay interest on all the money she would spend. When she said so, I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She meant every word she said. Her response shocked me, considering everything I had done for her since we started dating until our marriage. Honestly, I would not have believed it if I had been told she would say something like that. Ultimately, I agreed to her terms, and she counted every penny she would spend and gave me her interest rate. As if paying interest and refunding her money was not enough, that same week, my wife's attitude towards me changed entirely. Before, I had issues with my job. She used to be so clingy and would repeatedly profess her love to me, but once she started paying the bills at home, everything changed. She no longer allowed me to touch her, and she changed from the talkative she used to be to a very cold person. I noticed all these changes, and when I confronted her about it, she said it was her new mood and that if I had any problem with it, I should deal with it. Even how she talked to me changed, and the respect was gone. Everything happened so fast, and in a twinkle of an eye, I didn't know who my wife was anymore. To make things worse, the company I worked for had to lay off some people, and I had to go after getting my salary. When this happened, I didn't tell my wife about it because she was already making staying with her at home unbearable. I told my friends about it, and thankfully, one of them reached out to someone who had just opened a fancy restaurant, and I got a job there. I worked as a waiter for almost 2 months at this fancy restaurant and didn't tell my wife about it. The pay was smaller compared to my previous salary, but it was better than doing nothing and being insulted by the woman who used to tell me I was the air she breathed. As for the bills at home, after 2 months of her adding her insane interest rate to the money she spent, I had to stop that, and we started splitting 50-50. Even with us splitting the bills, our marriage did not go back to how it used to be, but I wasn't even bothered about that because my only focus was to keep applying for jobs until I got a better job than serving at the restaurant. Somehow, I believed my wife's respect would return after I got back to my old financial status. One day, I was at the restaurant trying to sort the orders of customers that just came in when I spotted my wife walking into the restaurant. When I saw her, my heart skipped because I thought she had gotten information that I was working there, but to my greatest surprise, she walked to a table where a man was already waiting for her, and they lip-locked each other. My heart broke instantly, and when I realized it was her ex-boyfriend, who she told me she had cut all contact with, I nearly peed in my pants. One of my coworkers working there before me saw the shock on my face and asked if everything was alright. It took me a few seconds to respond to him, and when I did, I told him about my wife and ex-boyfriend. He was also surprised and confused but understood better when I told him my wife didn't know I was working there. The coworker that talked to me and I were close, so he devised a plan for me. After we agreed on the plan, he went to take their orders. The plan was he would go and take their order, and once their food was ready, I would go and serve them while he would record everything from behind. I did as we had planned. I took the food to my wife and her ex-boyfriend without breaking my stride. When she looked in my direction and saw me, her face turned pale, and she spat out the red wine she was drinking out of surprise. I ended up leaving the food in front of her and her ex-boyfriend, and while I took my time to do that, she literally froze and could not say a word. Later that day, she did not come back home. I knew she wouldn't, so I gleefully packed her stuff and left them outside. The next morning, she came to beg and give her usual cheater's line of "Baby, I can explain. It's not what you think." This was the longest sentence she had said to me in days, and if I had not seen her, she probably would have kept cheating on me. I felt generous with my words, so I told her to return to her rich ex-boyfriend and enjoy her toxic relationship. She didn't say much after that. She just packed her stuff and left. I even doubt her tears were real. Weeks later, we divorced, and everything ended between us. Luckily, 4 months after I worked at the restaurant, I landed a good job with a juicy offer. I even forgot to add that my coworker and I posted my wife's video online. We covered her boyfriend's face but left hers for the world to see, and it went viral. I wouldn't like to be specific, but she's made it to the meme section, and each time I remember the look on her face on that video, it makes me laugh. I couldn't even cry over her. I moved on like nothing had happened because she had badly hurt and disrespected me in the past few months. And the two things I couldn't take from a woman were cheating and disrespect. I'm fine now, but I'm in no rush to be in a relationship because most women are horrible pretenders. They are so good at saying, "I'll be your ride or die," but they leave when something happens.